from the Impact Group to talk about and help us with our strategic plan. So I'll turn it over to the two of you. Thank you.
Great. Well, thank you for having us. I met all of you as you came in the room, but again, I'm Phil Herman, a partner at the Impact Group, and this is Lori Sandel. Lori and I are both relatively new to the Impact Group. I'll have Lori share her background here in just a minute. I joined the Impact Group in February. I've been familiar with the Impact Group for about 15 years and worked closely with the Impact Group, but my entire career has been in public education up until that point. For 25 years. I was a teacher, a coach, a principal, a director of human resources, and assistant superintendent for 11 years, superintendent most recently at 6 schools for the last 8.5 years. And so the Impact Group is very deliberate in the last year of deciding to hire experienced educators. As we do a tremendous amount of work with school districts in strategic planning, in school communications, in crisis communications, and in building cultures, particularly those focused on a culture of appreciation. And so I'll have Lori share her background.
Thank you. I'm Lori Sandel. I'm the Vice President of Strategic Services for the Impact Group. I will have been there a year next month already. Crazy how time flies. But my background is very similar to Phil's. Prior to joining the Impact Group, I'm a lifetime educator. So spent 10 years of my career with Akron Public Schools. So started in a very large district. Have been an assistant principal, a dean of students, principal, curriculum director, assistant superintendent, pretty much every job except the treasurer, because nobody wants to be the treasurer in their district. Just take a look at my checkbook and my husband will tell you, no way should she manage anybody else's money. So same, very similar. Very similar to Phil. Just really enjoy doing the work that we do with school districts, and having our collective experience behind us really helps us engage with public school districts. We do some work with some private schools. Just dabbled into one charter school just recently because they needed our help. And we also work with boards of developmental disabilities. So we find that boards of DD operate very similarly to school districts. They have a board of directors, they have managers, executive leadership, those types of things. So we do quite a bit of work in that realm as well. So.
And cities and villages.
And cities and villages, yes.
Yeah. So that's a little bit about us. Could you share with us a little bit about you? How long have you been board members, each one of you? And if you have any other roles in the community, could you share this with us as well? Anyone want to start?
I'll start. I'm Sarah Bitter. I'm a mom. I have 2 kids in the district. My background is I'm an attorney. I am a person who is also a disability advocate for families and for children and adults that have different types of disabilities. And I have been on the board. I was sworn in this January, so I'm a new member.
Congratulations.
And I really enjoyed being here.
What kind of law do you practice?
Really, I'm not practicing law now. I'm on a school board, but it's disability.
Okay.
Disability. Yeah.
My husband's a personal injury lawyer.
Great.
Lynn Steger, I got elected at the same time. I was sworn in January. My background is I'm a teacher, adjunct professor, mom, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. So
Awesome.
Great, thank you.
Hi, my name is Brad Comelberg. I was elected in 2019, so I got to join the board right in front of the pandemic starting.
He's still here.
Yeah, I work for Procter & Gamble as a senior director. I focus on innovation, and I'm now responsible for global transportation for the company, the systems. So that's been keeping me quite busy.
Yeah, just a bit, right?
Hi, Paul Ballard. I've been on the board 8 years. Parent in the district. I have 2 girls in the school district. And then my real job is global corporate account manager for industrial water treatment.
Great. Well, I want to thank you for your service. And I mean that so sincerely. I don't know if the general population understands how significant Board of Education is on the culture within the school district. And you're choosing to lead during a time that is extremely challenging. Certainly coming off of the pandemic or having led through the pandemic. I'm not telling you anything you don't know about it being challenging. We're also facing political turmoil, political challenges. And then, of course, things like the shooting in Texas that just remind us of the obligations that we have as educators in regard to safety and how serious and those challenges can become. And so, as Board of Education members, you're willingly stepping up to lead in the face of those challenges. And so we appreciate that. So thank you for that service. Lori's going to talk to you a little bit about bucket list.
Yeah, so it's really interesting. I want to talk in front of you all, but I feel like my back is available. So think about one thing right now that's on your bucket list. Something that before you leave this earthly realm, you have to do. Just think about it for a second. I'm not going to ask you to share anything. Got it? Okay. So if it is taking a trip to Disney, if it's writing that book, one of mine is going to Europe, never been to Europe, so would love to eventually get there. Chances are, if we just think about it, we're not going to do it. It's not going to get done. It's just human nature, right? If I just say, well, I'd really like to go to Europe someday, is someday going to happen? Probably not. So now I challenge you to take that same item on your bucket list and write it down somewhere. Put it on a Post-it note. Write it on your mirror in your bathroom. I have a piece of chart paper that's on the back of my office door, but the only time I see it is when I close my office door, but it's got a list on it. I'm writing it down. I see it. Now I have increased my chances of actually doing what's on that bucket list. The third challenge I would have for you, so think about it is one thing, writing it down is another, but put a date next to it. So if I say to myself, in the summer of 2024, I am going to go to Europe, I have exponentially increased my chances of actually going to Europe. Writing it down and putting a date next to it are the biggest challenges. So when we talk about strategic planning, that's exactly what it is. We say by this year, by May of 2025, we want these things for the district. We're envisioning what we want, we're writing them down, and we're putting a date next to it and making it real. So think about that as we go through this process of where do we want the district to be in the next 3 years. Okay.
Thank you, Lori. So today, we are going to go through a brief visioning activity, but we're not changing your vision. You have a mission, vision, values, and you have themes in your current strategic plan. We're not going to be changing any of that. You also have objectives that are established, and we will be listening carefully through this process from what we're hearing from the staff, and what we're hearing from you, and what we hear from the administration about those objectives. And we might recommend some changes or rewording to some of those objectives. And then when we get into goals and strategies, we believe, to quote Brene Brown, that clear is kind and unclear is unkind. And so we want to make sure that any revisions that we recommend to you for the strategic plan are clear. Is it clear to the educators and to the administrators and to the community members, but particularly to those who are going to be implementing the plan? Are they clear on who is going to do what when? And that is our target throughout this process. So Lori will be leading you through a brief visioning process, and then we know that you've done a SWOT analysis previously, and we're going to do that again: strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. But in light of, you did that in 2019, we've had a pandemic since then. And that has shaped a lot of the thinking in schools, and it's shaped about where we are today. And we think it's fantastic for school districts to be looking right now, either at their current strategic plan or starting a new strategic plan, in light of the pandemic to say, this is a good time. We are starting to come out of the pandemic, and so many educators want to move forward. They want to have a path. They want to be not just reacting to the day-to-day, and we've been in a lot of that mode. I commend you for having kept the strategic plan moving during that period of time while you were also reacting. I've been impressed with the work that you have been able to do through that same period of time. So we'll look at the SWOT, and then we'll talk really about what's next. What are those next steps? And we have just under an hour now to do all that. So we're going to try and keep it moving. Any questions on any of that so far? Ready? Lori.
All right, and again, we do understand that you've done some of this work already. We have the previous SWOT analysis in front of us, but things have changed so drastically. And when we spoke with Chad and Kelly and Brett and their entire team, we really wanted to make sure that we were including all of the changes that have occurred. Education is not the same. Our teachers are not the same. Our kids are not the same. Parents, things have changed so dramatically since that pandemic. So we want to make sure that we are really paying attention to that moving forward and making sure that all of that change is included as we go forward. Okay. So let's start with just a visioning activity. And I hate to say visioning, we're not looking at your mission and vision and value statements. We're not changing that. What I want you to do is kind of go back to the bucket list idea, and let's talk about what does the district look like. It is June. Oh my gosh, today's June 1st. I'm so used to saying May. It's June. My father's birthday is today. So June 1, right? It's June 1. It's 2025. 3 years down the road. What do you see for Sycamore Community Schools? What is success? You say we have arrived, we have made it, our school district is exactly where we want it to be. It's June 2025. What does that look like? What do you have in place? This is where I need you first.
Our construction projects are done.
Construction is finished, finalized. Awesome. What else?
What year are we in?
2025.
Our curriculum review is completed and implemented, and we're moving forward with a vertical alignment on our curriculum.
Okay. Alignment of curriculum. Audits completed, reviews completed. Everything's in alignment and moving forward. Perfect. Oh, God.
We are on focus with our mission and our vision to have an inclusive community school district that helps prepare students for their future, for a global world that's out there. And they are prepared and getting the best education possible. And we're all aligned on that. Our board, our administration, and we feel very confident in our
Creating that whole child.
Yeah. And just working together and planning it and feeling like we're really all on the same page and working well together.
Did you capture that, Phil?
I would say that we've grown academically as a district for all students. And that can look differently for different students, but that we're continuing to move forward with academic growth for students, whether that's growth in, there are certain indicators that we look at, ACT scores, performance index, report card, those types of things, but I don't want to be solely focused on those, that all students are academic.
So I would say we're meeting kids where they are and having them grow from there. Because it's not just about high academics. Some students, you have to meet them where they are, but the growth factor is there for every student.
Direction and magnitude.
Awesome.
Individualize, and they're able to see that child where they are and help them maximize if need be through individualization.
Right. Okay.
I think that would be, if I'm just creating the perfect.
That's exactly what we want to do.
I'm not saying that every kid's gonna get that, but
This is your vision. This is what you want to have happen.
just if every kid can have an more individualized education, more options that met them. So we're teaching them the way they need to be taught so that they can maximize their potential. I think that would be incredibly powerful for every student.
When we do this exercise for our company, I see myself pulling up to our beach resort where we have our retreat in my red Ferrari. That's my vision for the next 3. I mean, it's okay. Hey, if I say it and I write it down, maybe it'll happen.
All students are successful in their endeavors post-graduate.
Yeah.
Okay.
So whatever
So to
path,
send kids out into the
whatever
world.
path they choose, they are successful in their next chapter.
Awesome.
I would,
I like that. That's really whatever path they choose. That's the key, because we're offering multiple pathways for them to be successful post-graduation.
I would go on the other end and add early expanding early identification support for students.
With
Learning
needs.
needs.
Okay. Early identification of students.
We have a really robust preschool program that really helps, to provide all the early education for our kids before they even get into kindergarten.
Okay. Robust
Um,
pre-K program.
I mean, I think, I think our district already does a great job with that, but continuing to really,
Do you offer pre-K for all? Is it?
no, we don't, but in my perfect world, I think every
This
single
perfect
child would have pre-K.
Okay, in 2025, would you love to have preschool for all?
I would, yeah.
Well, then that's what we're gonna envision. It's okay.
Retention of top talent,
Retain, attain
diversification of our
staff.
workforce staff.
Yes.
Okay. Brad,
I was going to say, we are recognized as the top school district in the state, not just by our educational measures, but by families who are choosing
to be here.
to be here as a destination district.
Awesome. The growth in the community is like, as we were driving around that last night and this morning, it's amazing to see, the neighborhoods are so eclectic. You see older homes, and then right next to it, clearly an older home's been sold and somebody's moved in and they built $400,000 or $500,000 home in the neighborhood. It's just to see that transformation. I mean, am I right?
No, they laugh
700,
because it's probably
Yeah.
about 800.
Oh,
Yeah.
but where we live, they're about $400 or $500.
Believe me, if I moved my house that I previously built to here, it would have been triple the cost, so.
Wow, okay.
Another area that I would love to see is making, having children who, we said, different fields, not just, maybe not all are gonna go to university, but people feeling like they can enter into advanced manufacturing or other trade schools or other programs like apprentice programs that are really robust, that show the wide variety of companies that are here locally and throughout the country and the world.
Okay.
So really utilizing some of these advanced manufacturing opportunities that we have right here in Cincinnati, which are excellent.
So this is my ideal world you're talking about.
Ideal, it's May, it's
Okay.
June.
Don't take this as I'm telling you to do this, okay? This is just like
June
in my little
2025.
fantasy world,
What do you
okay?
see?
I want you to understand that, Mrs. Wagner and Mr. Lewis. I would love to see foreign language dropping down a year every year.
There you go, foreign language expanded through to the middle school.
No. Down
All the way into the
all way
elementary.
Elementary school,
Awesome.
that's one at a time.
That's okay, foreign
That's like-
language,
Ideal, okay?
that's what we're talking about right now. That's what we're talking about. Foreign language expanded all the way down into the elementary. Anything else? Let's talk about,
I was gonna just say, I'd like to see us have a high level of community satisfaction for the work we do. And when I say that, I don't mean just our parent community, I mean our entire community.
okay. High level of satisfaction, what do you mean by that? Can you expand a little bit?
They feel that their schools add value to their homes, their community, and their lives.
Awesome.
I think, there's a financial piece to this too, right?
I was just gonna ask you to think a little bit beyond everything we've been talking about, which is wonderful, is very student-centered. Let's talk about maybe some finance, facilities, we talked about a little bit, transportation, food service, human resources. What are some other larger entities of the school district that you want to talk about?
I think, and I don't know how to word it, but we have to be fiscally responsible, continued fiscal responsibility to our community, maximizing what we can do with our current resources, without, obviously there's always gonna be operating limits, but, we have to be realistic about what.
Well, and I think going with the financial piece, we often talk about being, having a value proposition to your community. When you talk about this being a destination district, what are we saying to our community? What value does the school offer to keep people here?
I think,
Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, having some way, like, some way for our senior citizens to connect more with our school district.
The engagement of people who don't have students in the district anymore.
Yeah, or even just having, like, I think communities that have senior centers and community centers for seniors, because we do have a lot of people who live in our district who are seniors. Some of them have children that went to school here, but some way to connect back to that, so that they feel the district is bringing value to them as well.
I have a couple of thoughts that are as well. Self-funded foundation director of development is in place,
Wow.
and that we have, like a university, we can do capital efforts without needing to go to the taxpayers because we have strong foundational support.
Nice. Wow, that's a big one. That's a huge lift for, that's impressive.
And I'm
like
gonna
that one.
piggyback on that too. Because I like that. A robust, in order to get there, obviously, a lot of community buy-in and input, planning involved that is very, it's very community centered. That even could go partially to the, senior part, but that it's robust, but there's a lot of buy-in. Everybody feels like all the stakeholders are included in that process and really, really supportive, because we have a lot of support in our community and a lot of different groups who are doing so much for our district to make sure they're all part of that,
Right.
so that they feel like they're part of that team together, just to add to that.
Yeah. And I think there's an alumni network established that's part of that, right? That's all. We have a lot of very successful alumni that aren't no longer in the
Circling back,
district,
right.
and how do we create
Connect.
that theme of once an aviator, always an aviator
Yeah.
kind of spirit.
Yep, I like it. Okay, can we go back to the top for a second? Okay, so we are in June of 2025. Our construction projects are completed. Our curriculum review is done, and the alignment is there. We have a focus of their mission and vision, preparing our students for their future, working well together. We've grown academically for all students, meeting them where they are and growing from there. We have more individualized education for every student. Our students are successful in their endeavors post-graduation, whatever path they may choose. Early identification of students, very robust preschool program, retention of top talent, diversification of work staff, workforce, recognized as the top school district in the state, utilizing local business partnerships for career program development. Foreign language is expanded all the way down through the elementary. High level of community satisfaction, schools add value to homes, communities, and lives. Continued fiscal responsibility to the community, maximizing use of resources. Community engagement with senior citizens, self-funded foundation, director of development in place, and a robust community buy-in, feeling part of the school, including alumni somehow in that process. That's a heck of a vision. That's a lot. Anything else we want to add? We can always come back to this as we have further conversation. If there's something that you say, oh, I want to put that on the list.
Yeah, or if you feel as though I didn't accurately capture something that you were saying, let me have it.
You did well.
Okay. Yeah, that's the toughest seat in the house, and everybody's like talking and trying to figure out, how do I capture this? Okay, so if that's where we see the district in the next 3 years, how are we going to get there? And of course, strategic planning really helps us to get to that vision, to that 3-year plan. There's a couple of things that we talk about specifically when we talk about strategic planning. Of course, we want to engage all of you and truly understand the strengths, the weaknesses, the opportunities, and the threats of the district. We're going to do opportunities and threats probably a little different than you've done in the past, but hang with me. The reason we're asking you to kind of redo a little bit of this work with us is we really want to understand you. We want to understand your purpose on the board. We want to understand your vision for the district. And so we need to just have this conversation with you to help us do that. So we appreciate you kind of going through this again. Strategic planning also aligns the district and helps you protect itself from what we call shiny new initiatives. There will always be things coming from the state, things coming from outside vendors, things coming from textbook companies, curriculum companies who say, hey, you guys want to fix this? Here it is. We've got this great new math program. This is the way to go. We've got these great new, right? Always somebody coming down the pike. If you have a solid strategic plan in place, you get to look at that plan and you get to say, okay, I see this new initiative. It really doesn't fit in what we said we were going to do over the next 3 years. So we're going to just let that sit aside and we're going to focus on what we're doing and what we said our plan was going to do. So the plan really helps keep you aligned to what you said you were going to do over the next 3 years. Make sense? So we are very, very particular about making sure that we capture that for you. So let's talk about, we're going to get to June of 2025. We're going to have all those great things going on. What is going on currently that is wonderful? Things you brag about. What are the strengths in the district right now?
Our
That-
diversity of our students.
Diversity of students.
Yeah.
Great. What else?
Teaching staff.
What about the teaching staff?
I think we have great teachers.
Great teachers. I wasn't sure if you were bouncing off.
No,
diversity.
I think that,
Okay.
speaking in generalities, but they're dedicated to our students.
Dedicated,
They're,
great.
providing high quality education for our students.
Wonderful. Dedicated, high quality education. What else? What other strengths?
I agree with, I'm gonna add more on teachers. Very, problem solvers, thinking outside the box when we need to. We just went through a pandemic and they just knocked it out of the ballpark. I mean, everybody had to stay flexible and no one knew what was gonna happen, but yet they remained professional the entire time and just, they really were there for our students. So I think I really think that's really strong. And I also want to add to, because I was going to say the same kind of thing. I think our families are one of our biggest strengths.
Yeah, I would
Families
say-
in our school district, because families are very engaged here. They're very interested in their children's education. Every parent is like, really listening in and coming to board meetings, but not just that, like working with their teachers, PTOs. I mean, you name it, we're doing it. Families are super engaged here.
And I
And
would
it's
take
really
that
hard
to even
because-
the next level of community support, community engagement support, because we've passed our last few levies, close to 70% of our community
Wow,
support.
wonderful.
Which, and again, we go back to only 30% of our community has kids in the district. So we have a lot of community support that are not necessarily day-to-day associated with our schools.
And I think it's really important to talk about the fact that families are engaged, your community is still engaged. There are plenty of communities and districts out there who lost that through the pandemic. People disengaged, they moved away, they weren't allowed in the schools, they weren't allowed to volunteer, they weren't allowed to be in classrooms, and they have remained that way now. So it's really important to recognize that you still have all that community engagement and that you retain it, because it has been lost quite a bit through other districts.
I was gonna say one of the strengths of our district is our transportation. Our bus drivers are the face first thing in the morning and last thing in the afternoon. They are professional, they are friendly, they are upbeat. I've enjoyed the transportation.
Really are.
I think our facilities, especially with the
Facilities are
construction that we have, we're opening a brand new building this fall, and then we have the junior high coming online next year with the high school ongoing construction. So I think, we are going to have some of the most elite facilities in the state of Ohio in our district.
Wonderful.
I think the breadth of our curriculum, especially at the high school level, there are
Multiple offerings.
so, things like accounting or engineering or computer science or teachers professional academy or graphic design. It's a rich breadth that can help people achieve their goals for post-graduation.
And I'll add in their Innovation Lab is very individualized for some students who aren't traditional learners. We have Abe's Academy. We have so many programs for kids that if they're struggling under a traditional model, especially in that high school, they have a
Goes back to
place
meeting them where they are.
Right, being able to find what works for that student and educate them where they're at. And we obviously have room for growth, but we try, right? Our district is very good at trying its best to meet those needs.
Do you still have any type of hybrid or virtual option for students right now?
But we did, and that was
Okay.
great. So we were in the middle of a pandemic,
Right.
and I will say that I was a parent who took advantage of that for one child, but not the other. And it was excellent to have that option, and the district did it, and it kept all the student, like, we were in person that whole year, but then the students who needed to be virtual did virtual. And that's probably why our community stayed so well too, engaged,
Connected,
because
yeah.
everybody was connected.
So we actually staffed, we hired 50 additional teachers,
Yeah.
staffed them all in one building to lead the virtual teaching.
I was
for
gonna
the-
say, I felt like you needed to know the scope of what we did versus what other districts
We
did.
did everything.
because the board took a leap of faith and said, we do not want the instruction to be
And disparity,
feeling, yeah,
Right.
we want an equitable experience. We know it wouldn't be the same, but equity doesn't mean same, it means
Yeah.
we want the experience to be that they can get the same quality, high quality of education, so.
whether they're sitting in the
And
classroom.
we had a
or-
number of staff members that chose to teach virtually that year because they, have medical issues, or maybe have a child at home that needed to be protected.
Worked well
or a
for them
family
too,
member.
right.
Yeah, so
We
Right,
gave families a choice, we gave the faculty the choice.
And it was Sycamore teachers, which was awesome.
right,
Because-
they offered the full course catalog.
Yeah.
Everything was on the table.
I think one of the strengths is our financial.
Okay.
We have a high capital, we have high reserves. We are fiscally sound. We limited our budget expenditures growth every year. So I think that's something that we do well and should be very proud of.
Yes,
So our financial.
I will also say, I think we've had a really good treasurer. For several years. We've had a really, who's been here for, just to go to that.
Long
financial-
time.
It's
She's only
true.
25 though, so it's
It's
good.
only been.
It's amazing,
But
isn't
really
it?
good. We have a really good
I turned 29
superintendent
this year.
who's been there, working like extremely hard. Our district office is top notch. Awesome.
I'd like to do a shout out on strength to our fine arts program,
Yeah, it's a good.
because the talent in we had a signing day for our fine arts program this year.
Really?
For the top students who are furthering their careers at the next level, wherever it would be. And just like we have athletic signings, we have
You
fine
need
arts
any
signings.
graphic artists
Yes.
coming to Hudson? We're always looking.
I have an add-on for what Mr. Comerford is saying also is, we do have offerings for multiple day field trips for immersed experiences in history at the high school, in music, even at the junior high school in music. Wonderful. So it's just, I feel like that's a good strength that we have that we're able to offer. Great.
So Lynn, I don't think I fully captured that one because I was still in the strength of fine
Extended
arts
field
program.
trips,
Okay.
Say like going to Europe to experience
Yeah, thank
World
you.
War II footprints for a week over spring break, those kinds of things, or music going to Washington DC for 4 days.
Yeah.
I think our transition programs for students that are transitioning between 18 and 23 are really strong. Comparatively, we take care of our students. It's for most schools, they take, we do it well, not just leave it there.
Yes,
I won't
yes, we do it
comment
well.
comparatively, but we do it well when we do not just the spirit, the letter of the law, we do the spirit of the law.
And our
So you have
kids are
probably good connection with your community partners in that area then too.
We actually, yes, we do have
Right.
the connections to community partners, but
we also have our own too.
we host our own.
Yeah, we have both. Great. But we also are very, from a very young age. Our kids are really, we have such a diverse district with many people from all types of backgrounds, race, religion, socioeconomic, disability. It's just it's really a real reflection of America, really. When you look at it statistically and numbers wise, when you look at our demographics. And our kids, you can see it in them when they're out in the community. Sycamore graduates are just extremely, they're experienced, they know the world, they are very respectful of all people with disabilities, very inclusive, and that's because they, from a very young age, even in our preschool setting, it's a very inclusive setting. And people say that to me all the time, like, we know Sycamore grads, we know them in the community, wherever we are, Sycamore grads have a way about them because they have been educated in a really
And exposed,
and
yeah.
exposed to all people.
Awesome. Okay, these are some amazing strengths for the district. I'm not gonna read them all to you, but but again, remember, we want, go back to that vision piece for me. I'm not gonna read through them all, but we're looking for a very robust preschool. We're looking for inclusivity for all, early identification, foreign language, all these things we want. And these are the strengths that are gonna get us there, right? What are some of the weaknesses? What are some of the things, and I hate the word weaknesses, because weaknesses just are areas for improvement. What are things, challenges, things that kind of get in our way of getting us to that vision of June 2025?
I like to call them problemunities.
Problemtunity, what?
Problemunities. So it's a problem and an opportunity all in one. So
My son
problemunities.
at one point said, Mom, did you have another collaboration meeting today? Collaboration, and when you think about it, we all sit around and talk to each other, so that was his made up word,
I
collaborating.
like that.
Yeah,
I did too.
problemunities.
All right, what are some of the things that get in the way?
I think there's always resources. There's always a financial piece to everything. I mean, you know, there's limitations to what we can do, right?
Financial limitations to the resources that we need.
I think it's more than just financial. I think it's time. I think it's
Yeah,
many
capacity
capacity.
is a big one.
Paul, go back, I don't think that
Well,
we
try-
captured exactly what you're.
So,
Well, I mean,
Yeah,
you know,
I was gonna say.
everything we said we want 2025 to look like
Right,
would be great if we had an unlimited amount of funds to do all this.
That's the foundation.
yeah, right,
But we don't right now. So,
Okay.
you know, again, you know,
kind of like allocating and budgeting the money you do have,
I
and
would,
that there is a limited fund.
yeah, we don't have unlimited funds to do everything we want to do.
Not yet.
Which is complicated.
I like this guy right there.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just public education. That's the
It
way,
is.
that's the way public schools are
And it
funded.
changes how often? I mean, as soon as the political landscape changes, it changes again, or legislation changes. What did you just hear today, Beth? Something came down the pike. It's,
Oh, they're gonna change something with how.
right. I mean, you can't prevent that, but we'll get into those. Those are threats. But
I'll
okay.
say something. So we are a very high achieving district. We have a lot of really successful, highly educated people in our district, you know? And it's hard for us sometimes to look for our weaknesses, talk about our challenges, right? Because we want to do our best, like we all, and me included. So we always want to, it's hard for me to answer that. Why is it hard for me to answer that? Like, because that would be a weakness. I don't like the word weakness either, but
Right, because
I
that's
mean,
your makeup, that's your.
there is such a thing as toxic positivity, right? Everything's not perfect, and it doesn't need to be perfect, and it's okay if it's not. It really is.
Right, because if we don't talk about the weaknesses,
Yeah,
then we
we're
never
not.
fix them.
And it's also, it's okay for there to be differences or challenges. It's just how we work on those differences and challenges and how we do it together and how we communicate. And I think that's kind of I sense it, you know, I can sense that. It's okay, and we just have to dig in and like do it and not get mad at each other, but just talk about it. And I think that's a
Phil-
hard thing for us.
Phil always talks about, and I'm gonna steal your thunder here, Phil. He always talks about, we need to talk about the problem, not the person.
Right.
And if you talk about the problem, you can talk about it all day long. It's when we talk about staff, right, it's really easy to talk about people, but in actuality, what we need to talk about are the problems themselves, not the people.
Yeah, and I'll elaborate on that a little bit. I say be hard on the problem. Let's beat it up. Beat the problem up, but don't beat each other up. Right? Put the problem out on the
But
table.
we gotta put it out on the table.
I'll add one to the table, that vertical alignment. So we have really strong leaders in each school.
Mhm.
And with autonomy, they can feel like a very different experience for our students as they go from elementary to
Yeah.
middle school to junior high to the high school. And that vertical alignment has been highlighted to us as a board as an area of opportunity.
The buildings are very siloed and the student doesn't get the same experience from start to finish. Every time they change building, they have a different student experience.
Exactly.
So
And you,
I was just gonna add on also, since we wanted every student, one of the perceptions I heard while running for school board is, I hear about the top 20%, I hear about the bottom 20%. We've got 60 in the middle. Let's meet the middle.
And you are not unique in that situation. That happens
So that's-
often because where is our funding and our programming with our lower 20%? Where is the rest of it with our gifted and higher 20%? And you're right, the students in the middle, we have to make sure that they have the same exact experience or are offered the same opportunities. I might not be a gifted child, but I should still be able to take APs and honors courses and CCP classes and I should have that same
and do
experience
individualization when you need
as
it.
my peers.
I don't think that our staff reflects the person.
Very true.
I didn't hear that, Paul. That
Staff
staff
do not
doesn't reflect the
diversity.
diversity.
Of our students.
And community. Okay. What else? What other weaknesses are there? Talk about, again, let's think, I'm just throwing out facilities,
On the vertical
human
alignment,
resources.
different experiences occur, you're right, to back off what you said that, but it's also about, I think as a district, having the educators themselves know what each experience is would be, like, almost like the high school and the preschool need to hang out, or like the junior high and the elementary, you know, like I feel like
Goes
it
to
needs-
that alignment.
it does, it goes to alignment for the experience perhaps as a district, but I think we need to remember, we have to keep our eye out here on the future. And now, because education changes so much, so quickly, and the world is changing, and we have to adapt to that. These people have to be talking like all the time. It seems like they should just know each other super well.
And they don't.
Because you'll be talking
They
about
don't.
something here, and then you get here, and then they don't know about that. There's not a lot of institutional knowledge that flows either down or up. I'm not sure how that would go. But I mean, it feels like you're just not, like, we don't know each other. It's like, hey, didn't you know, like, we already worked on that. Like, did you know that? And we're trying to do this, and then you get there and you're like, but
Some of the, okay.
I was gonna also just add on the communication piece to parents, that as their kids are getting older, they need to be more independent. You need to break that little tie between yourself and every teacher. At some point, you need to let them grow. I feel like that's a weakness. As the parents, yes, they're involved, but we also need to work on having independent humans coming out of the high school.
Okay.
Sarah, help, going back to.
Yeah, I'm just gonna
I'm not
add
doing a
Sarah.
great job of capturing that one. I think I know what you're saying. I'm just trying to think of a
People
concise way to
across the
capture
district
it.
don't know what each other
No,
does. So a preschool teacher has no
yeah.
idea what the high school teacher's struggle is, or
or
vice
vice
versa.
versa.
And then there's no experience for the student that is the same from start to finish. I wanna add in here your portrait of a graduate piece. Because when you talk about, you've done that work, you've created core competencies that every student should have when they graduate. But are the teachers all on board with those core competencies, and are they infusing them into their
Early.
daily instruction? Because if they are, then that student who's a kindergartner gets to the 5th grade, gets to the 8th grade, gets to the 10th grade, and they're still hearing about being a global thinker. They're still hearing about being an empathetic listener. They're still learning about all of those core competencies. That student then has some continuity
Yeah.
from their kindergarten.
That's what I was implying in the
Yeah.
vertical alignment.
Not just the curriculum, so then I would
Yeah.
add the core competencies of your vision of a graduate to your portrait of a graduate.
And just knowing that, you know, whatever path, so once you get to the high school years, there will be many options that can flow out into different fields. And maybe you don't go on, like I said, some people don't go on to university, some people may go into the trades, and they may go into the military, but to have that kind of understanding that this graduate out here is gonna look so different from when they were little, and just to keep that line of communication going always. And I know that we're doing that with our curriculum. We just had a great presentation today, and we're working on that with curriculum, but to also just have them communicate. They are one team because they're teaching all of our kids, even though they don't see each other every day.
Then that
It's
portion of
kinda
a
like-
graduate could be that common language, that commonality between teachers as well. You know, again, if your student leaves the 4th grade and gets to the 8th grade and Mrs. So-and-so is still talking about those core competencies, your child's gonna leave here going, yeah, I know what that means because I've heard it for the last 12 years. It's been kind of instilled in me, no matter what path I choose. Those core competencies are there.
I would also add on for weaknesses, you guys heard this from me a million times, is the stress of the testing over and over again. It's just so
Test
much.
anxiety, test stress.
Everybody from
Let's talk a
families
little
to
bit about-
kids, to teachers, to administrators, it goes across the board. It's just, that's a weakness that I think every district has though, so.
Let's add in some mental health, social emotional wellness. You know, since we're talking about this post-pandemic, you know, how are the students being supported? How are your staff members being supported? And I'm gonna say all the way up to your central admin,
Yeah.
because we can't forget the fact that the superintendent, sorry, Chad, has just as much mental health and stress and social emotional needs
Yeah.
as that 4th grader or that kindergartner. You know, we have to think about the whole breadth of the organization. So is that a weakness?
Yes.
Do your students, do your staff, you might have lots of resources. Do they know how to access them? Do they know where to find them? Do the parents know? Are they in-house or?
Well,
are
and
they
I think
third
it's
party?
something that we've done a good job with, but I think there is still more needs to be done. So I do think it's a weakness, but that's not saying we haven't done.
Right.
a
I
good
think
job.
if
No,
you're,
absolutely.
we don't want to, I agree. I feel like we are kind of working in comparative, maybe to others, we're doing better, but there definitely is room for growth. I agree.
So we can move.
It's
But mental
intentional. It
health
has to be intentional.
Mental
work.
health should be on that list for
Yeah.
sure, because there's no way that there's just no way anyone's doing that perfectly right
No,
now.
absolutely.
No way, because we don't even have the resources, we don't even have the know.
And when we think about the social emotional initiatives and the words I'm trying to think of, Kelly, the guidelines, why can't I think of the
SEL standards?
the standards? The word standards could not come out of my mouth. Let's come in, October of 2019, those came out, and then the pandemic hit. So what happened to those? Where are they? How are they being infused? Because they just kind of like, they hit a brick wall, those standards just, we had just started talking about them and how to infuse them into classrooms, and then bam, it was March 2020, and the world was kind of, so where are those standards? How are we using them? Really, really important to include those. Okay,
Let's do a time check. Chad, how long do we have?
11:30. Chad just walked out the door, so I think
Uh-huh.
we're done.
Chad.
You're done, then we're out.
How long do we
Time check, we good? About 10 more minutes?
Yeah.
You sure? It's your meeting, we don't want to take too much more time.
10 to 15.
10 to 15, okay. So I don't want to end with threats, because that's a yucky way to end. So let's jump to threats, and then we'll go back to opportunities. So threats, the way we see them, I'm standing on the beach. I see a tidal wave. It's coming at me. There is nothing I can do about it except prepare myself and maybe hunker down somewhere. But it is coming no matter what.
Political climate.
Political climate,
Security.
security and safety. What are threats to education that has
Legislative changes.
legislative changes? Testing, legislative changes. What about economy? Inflation,
I think mental health.
mental health,
Mental, and I don't mean that in like, I don't know, threats.
mental challenges,
Or mental health.
unknowns. Right? I mean, the mental health piece is just such an unknown still. I think there's so much work to be done yet. We don't even know what we should be doing.
Maybe you call that anxiety.
Yeah,
That's the
Anxiety.
threat.
Yeah,
Yeah,
let's say, instead of
anxiety
mental
around-
health as a threat, yeah, let's do anxiety.
anxiety, thank you. Mhm. What else?
Uncertainty, change.
Is there competition to public schools?
Oh, yes.
Funding cuts, probably. That's part of
Charter
legislation.
schools.
Charter schools, online schools,
Teacher shortages.
teacher shortages, staff shortages, substitutes, bus drivers, food service, right? How hard is it to get people to come back to work? Those are all definite threats. Okay. Opportunities. And we're going to talk about this again a little differently than you may have. Opportunities for us, when I think about that, I think about what are some opportunities in the area? Can you talk about partnerships? Can we talk about internships? Opportunities to connect with universities, to connect with large hospital systems, to connect with manufacturing? What are opportunities out there that you have yet to connect to that you think you should be?
Yeah, so we are looking at starting a group that's going to start looking at community partnerships with businesses, local businesses, to look at both internships, but also job shadowing, career opportunities, so that students know what they can do with a certain degree. So that is an opportunity that we're currently.
Awesome. Community partnerships, mentoring, that type.
So you're saying what opportunities
Are out there that you haven't tapped into.
I mean, I would add there, and maybe that goes on that list, is we have an incredible, like, advanced manufacturing around us. Some of the best in the world is here, for
So are we
students.
purposefully infusing students into
Yeah.
some of those experiences? Are we
Yeah.
bringing some of those experiences
I mean,
into the school?
In Blue Ash, we have them in Mason, we have them all over, that pay for you to go to college, train you, and pay you a lot of money.
Great opportunities, but do our kids know about them? Are they infused in the school?
I would-
Okay, what else?
I think we have a great partnership with parents and gifted students, but I think we need to work on the special education and special healthcare needs partnerships with parents.
Okay.
Uh,
Do we have any community partnerships that need to be strengthened in that area?
I'm sure there's one out there that we don't do.
There are, I'm sure, yes, there are, for sure.
That's huge. That's a big.
What about,
swath.
yes, what about universities? Do we have connections? I mean, CCP, I know is available, but
We have great connections with UC, City of Bureau.
I mean, we do, but I think there's opportunities to strengthen and grow those.
okay,
I put personal finance, education. I don't think this is just for us, but I think the entire public school systems in the country have an opportunity. A majority of people learn personal finance from their parents, which means that you end up with an inequality over time.
or they learn it by making giant mistakes,
Yes.
right?
So, learning by experience.
I have 4 children, 2 of which really understand personal finance, 2 of which are absolutely lost, right? And so, how much of that is on me? How much did they learn or not learn through
I think we have an opportunity with new buildings to work with our staff to, you can help me with wording, Kelly. I mean, the way that we're gonna be teaching children in new spaces.
student-centered?
We need to support the staff so that we give them the right tools to educate our kids based on the new building.
To break out of the traditional mold of schooling. It's an opportunity. It is also quite a challenge. Teachers are creatures of habit. We all are. It was so funny the other day. Phil's like, "Oh, we need this connector. We need this one adapter." I'm like, "I got it." He's like, "Oh, I got it." I said, "You forgot. I was a teacher for 10 years. I hoarded everything."
It's
Like
almost-
I have a box full of stuff because that's who we are by nature. So how do we break them out? If we're providing them these great spaces, how do we break out of some of those traditional teaching practices that are just who we are?
To add to a word to that, universal design and learning,
Right.
So just universal design, I mean, just utilizing what you have to make sure that it accommodates the wide variety of people and then
UDL.
just sort of killing.
Yep.
I would just caution us on that one, that's a huge fiscal cost and you need extra staffing in classes for that.
But it's still an opportunity.
Yes, it's an opportunity.
Do you want to add the
Foundation.
foundation?
I was just waiting for one of my colleagues. I just
I did it for you.
patient, but I don't want to be alone. I don't want to be a lone soldier on this.
And then
I also, the first thought I
how do
had
you really feel?
we
we're in Cincinnati. I mean, we have P&G, we have some of the best possible, we have Cincinnati Children's Hospitals, we have GE, we have incredible companies right here in our area that we could tap into a little bit more, probably. Cincinnati. Yeah, we have a lot of opportunity here.
Lots of things here.
Along with our new facilities, along with looking at new educational practices, I think we're gonna have spaces that we can bring our community at large in. And kind of reconnect, not that we haven't already done some of that, but I think we're gonna find some new opportunities for our communities to utilize our facilities.
As I was just leaving Akron Public, they had just started their giant rebuilding project, right? And so every one of their schools, they were turning into community learning centers. So now if you go to Akron Public, it is Oakdale CLC, Perkins CLC, they're all community learning centers. And they were very, very intentional about this is a place for our community to come and use the facilities, come and use the stages, use the athletic facilities. They are true community hubs within each neighborhood. And it was a really forward way of thinking 15 years ago when they started the project.
I would also like to add an opportunity that we could utilize is having more onto that adapted programs for athletics for people who have disabilities.
Got it. Or adaptive PE,
sports.
adaptive sports,
A
adaptive
lot of
theaters.
communities are doing that, even in our schools itself, adaptive classes, like now we have an adaptive art class, like we never had that, like I have a child that didn't have art for years in the district.
To also add on to that, that's a great mental health piece as well.
Yeah.
To have therapies, so to have music therapy, to have art therapy, to have, I mean, we have a district that has theater therapy, not just for their students, but then for your staff as well. It's a great mental health addition to your content, to your core, to add those therapies along with it.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. So we have quite a list here of strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. I am gonna let Phil wrap it up.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm
safe, but
whoops. Yeah.
Wait, I have to tell this story. I was in Philadelphia last week. I had to rent a car to get to where I was going from the airport, and they said, "Ooh, you want a Tesla? We have one on the lot." I was like, "Ooh, it charged?" Right? And I was like, "Yeah, how much extra?" He's like, "I can do it for like $20." Yes, sure, I'll drive a Tesla. I get in it, I go to like pull out of the rental area. And the guy says, "Okay, you got your map, you know where you're going, you all set, you got a full tank of gas?" And I went, "I don't know, I don't even know where anything is in this car." He goes, "Joke's on you, it's electric." So he was like, "There's no gas in this car." And I didn't even think about it. Yep, that was my favorite. Joke's on you.
So I am so excited to hear you talk about the things that you talked about today, partially because you're doing a lot of this work already. We believe very strongly in schools telling their story, and you have an incredible story to tell right now. You just projected what you want that story to be over the next 3 years, and that's exciting work. Yes, are there threats? Are there very real challenges? Will it be exhausting work? It will be. Is it worth it? It is. It is absolutely worth it. You are changing the lives of students in your school buildings right now. And you just articulated the ways that you want to further change lives. That's exciting. So I hope that you feel that in stating it, just like we want to help you organize it and put dates down, just like it's your bucket list, and then be very specific about who's doing what when, so that you're saying, yeah, we're going to make those things happen. So
Great,
thank
that
you for your
foundation.
participation in it. That gets me pumped up. So what's next? We're continuing this type of district data gathering to help us understand, to help you revise that plan. So we've been having focus groups with your staff members, and we want additional input. So we're working with Chat to put out a survey so that we can have additional commentary from staff members, which we will incorporate into our compiled list of information that we gathered from the district that helps shape those, particularly those objectives, or the goals and strategies that we have it listed now. And then we'll come back with recommended revisions, and we share that admin team, and Chad will be communicating with you about that process and what those suggested changes are. And then eventually, we get to a place where we meet with the administrative team, and in about a half-day session, we walk through, once this plan is established, and we have the session where we say, who is responsible for this action step? And we believe many hands make light work, and that administrative team is around it. Does that mean that they're going to do it by themselves? Absolutely not. Of course, are way too complicated to do by yourself. You need other team members involved. You need community members involved. But in terms of keeping it moving, that person will be responsible for keeping it moving. And so when we go through these sessions, we were just in one yesterday, as Lori was pointing out earlier. We go through the session, and eventually you see tally marks next to names. How many objectives or strategies are you responsible for? And we hit a place where, Jeff, your name isn't up there on that list at all. Your teammates are up there 3, 4, 5 times. And is it time that you take leadership on one of those? And what's it make most sense for you to be leading? And so, and we're able to say those things sometimes more easily than a board of education is able to say them, or a superintendent, or some of the other team members, because we're not here every single day, and that's why you're having us facilitate. So we look forward to that process. We look forward to that work, and I just want to thank you again for your participation and your engagement today. It's great information that we got. So thank you.
So when we're done, you'll have 3 pieces all together. So we will have created goals and objectives that align with what you already have. We want to make sure that we really honor the work that's already been done. We know for a fact, Kelly, you moved one of those goals forward already. We want to make sure that we are really paying attention to the themes, the ADES, all of those things that you have in place. We want to make sure that we infuse what we're doing into that work. We may make some adjustments. There are some pieces of the strategic plan that haven't been moved forward, and I think there's reasons for that. It's just there's actionable steps that we need to create so that the team doing the work really understands what the work is and how to move things forward. Part of our action steps is baseline. Where are you with this particular objective? We then talk about recommendations. What do you think you should recommend as of your baseline information? What should you recommend moving forward? When are you going to implement anything new of that particular objective, and how are you going to measure it? When you put those 4 steps to any objective, you're going to get some momentum. You're going to get people moving forward. They're going to understand clearly what they need to do, when they need to do it, and who's doing it. So we'll come back with all of that information. We create 3 different versions of your strategic plan for you. One of them is just goals and objectives. So it's really very outward facing. It's what you would provide to your community. It's what you would provide with any partners. You can put it on your website. It's that outward facing document that says, here's where we're going in the next 3 years. The next one is the version with all the action steps in it, the who's doing what, when, and when is it, how are we going to measure it. So that's got all of that baseline data, all of the names, the dates, all of those. That's an internal document. That's your working document. Chad's going to be able to take that document and every quarter meet with his administrative team and say, okay, Kelly, this was your objective. You said you were going to get this done by October of 2022. Are you on track or are you off track? And she says, I'm on track. We're moving forward, and you keep moving. If you have an administrator in the room that says, ooh, that one's off track, Chad's going to be able to have open conversation. What's going on, Mr. Smith? I'm just using that name. I don't know if that's actually Mr. Smith here. Good. What's going on here? You said you were going to get this done by October of 2022. We're not moving forward on it. What's in your way? What obstacles are you facing? What can we do to move those barriers so that you can move this objective forward? So it becomes a really great document for Chad and his team to use to make sure that people, we call ourselves accountability partners, because we're going to still be in contact with Chad and say, hey, how's your team doing moving that plan forward? Where are you with it? And then the third version is just the goals and objectives. We put it in a nice 11 by 17 poster size so you can actually post that in staff lounges, in school offices, in businesses. You know, we have a lot of communities that have really nice forward-facing windows and things like that, and they like to say we're in connection with our schools and here's where they're going in the next 3 years. So we come back with those 3 versions for you. We also offer, Chad, the opportunity to refresh the plan every year. So we will stay in contact with the district, and as the district moves and as things move forward, as things are completed, communicate the heck out of that, put it out on your website, like, look, we had 10 objectives and we've completed 5 of them in this first year. We will then refresh the plan for him, change any dates, change any names, as turnover happens. And every school year, he'll start the year with a brand new refreshed plan that is all updated and ready to go. So those are the things that you can look forward to from us as we move forward.
I think it's important, just, new members and then people that were here in the development. What you didn't hear is we're not changing the big picture of what was already there. It's more of bringing that clarity, and I think you can hear the clearer process to get to where we want to go than just the document we used to have. So it's bringing clarity and making it understandable for the lay person that's not in the education speak, but also clarify for our staff, because there was a lot of confusion around what are we trying to accomplish, and I don't think we had a clear path. And I think when we get through this, the SWOT analysis, and really have a plan going forward, we will have a clear path to be able to help our staff support us through the process instead of just like, you guys go do the work and inform us what's going on.
We had a lot of really good focus group work in the previous. I want to honor that
Absolutely.
work that occurred. My expectations would be the goals would be very similar, right? If they're tweaked in language or whatever, I don't understand that, but my expectation would not be a complete respin of the goals, objectives, and how.
We want to very much stay true to the goals that are in place. We want to also honor the fact that there might be an additional goal or two based on the post-pandemic information. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, we're not, I don't think any of us are saying they've got to.
We may gather this information and say, you know what, this is a glaring trend in your data, and we really think you should add a goal specific to.
We just invested a lot, lot of time
Yes,
with a lot
absolutely.
of faculty, a lot of.
And Chad, be very clear with us on that as well.
And we've been very clear with the staff as we've done 8 focus groups already with staff. And we've said that over and over and over again. The work that you did it is absolutely put a lot of time in, and we're not changing the work that you did. There are just some things in the plan that we think we can offer some real clarity to. We can make it actionable. We can add those SMART goals and really give you a document that you can use and get you to that June of 2025. Get you to those red Ferraris.
And the plan, as most plans do, go from broad to more specific to more specific. And we're talking about the more specific and more specific down here in terms of, is it clear in terms of the implementation? Certainly the overarching direction and the primary goal areas, the overarching are called objectives in your current plan.
Right?
You call goals and strategies more specific. Those overarching themes and objectives, we completely understand that that's the direction you're headed.
Thank you.
It's very helpful.
No problem. Thank you for your time. Thank you for letting us invade your meeting, guys. We will.
Okay, let's, I guess I need a motion to go back into executive session, right, Mrs. Cover?
So moved.
No, it's not that easy. Should have a number and all that. Is that right, Beth? Need a motion to go back into executive session?
Yeah, she got it. We did state that we.
I know, I'm looking. I got so.
You want it?
No, I got it. Okay. Need a motion to go into executive session for ORC 121.22G1, employment, discipline, and compensation of a public employee, official, or regulated individuals.
So moved.
Second.
Mrs. Weber?
Dr. Steeder.
Aye.
Mr. Comer.
Aye.
Mr. Ballant.
Aye.
And Mrs. Bitter.
Aye.
Motion passes. We will not be coming back out to take any vote or anything. We'll take a 5-minute break and then start executive session. I stop that.
I just want it.
No.